of this increasing the lockdown. They are desperate to stop the momentum of the awakening to the scam. And I think the 40,000 people that were in Trafalgar Square a couple of weeks ago shocked them, the numbers. And not only the numbers, but the range, the whole range of society was there. Every race, every imaginable expression of humanity was there. And that shows a gathering unity, which is always terrifying to the tyranny, because unity is the last thing they want. They want chaos and conflict and division. And so I think they are planning some responses to try to intimidate or undermine people's willingness to actually go on the 26th of September and meet again in Trafalgar Square in even greater numbers, because the more people that are there that day, the bigger the statement will be on people are sick of it, seen it, and they're not having it. And what a statement, 40,000 people. What a statement it would be if there was an increase on that on the 26th of August. And there are going to be efforts in the background or even in the foreground to undermine that event. And we must not let them do it.
You're absolutely right with that. And I've seen it firsthand, like the speed that it's grown. You know, like there was, 35,000 in Trafalgar Square. Well, the London protest before was 600. I mean, you know, I'm not very good at maths, but Christ, that's a jump. And obviously I've been, at protests all over the country, and you can see since Trafalgar Square, the attitude of the police has completely changed. It's completely changed. I'm not going to say the police are bad if they're not being bad. In Leeds, the police were great. They were coming over. They were saying, like, is there anything you need? Let us know. We're just stood over here, like, getting problems with people. Let us know. They were fabulous. Fantastic. They're aggressive again. And I kind of thought in my head, well, that's London for you. They're a bit like that in London. But then Sheffield, the following week, aggressive from the get-go. From the absolute beginning to him arriving, they knew he was arriving. Which sent alarm bells for me early doors, because someone said, I would like to know who that is. Because as soon as he was, they were already in position, and they jumped on him. And obviously it just got worse and worse. And they surrounded us in the square, and everyone was talking. It was peaceful. It was fantastic. People were giving different speeches, whistleblowers. It was fantastic. But anytime anyone wanted to leave, so Piers wanted to go to the toilet. And so they converged on him. And that's when they arrested him, just when he was trying to go to the toilet. So you're right, the attitude's changed. They've obviously had, orders from above saying, right, okay, we squash this now, which for me is even more reason to do it even bigger.
Yeah, they had a shock in Trafalgar Square, and now they're seeking to recover from that with aggression, and you've only got to see from Sheffield to see the brutality of the police with a 70+ year old tyranny. And there's another was very badly hurt. He had to be resuscitated. You actually see a policeman pushing that guy over, and he falls back onto a concrete block, like a kind of makeshift seat. And he became ill after that. Now, what he became ill with, I'm not sure about that, and I don't have that information. But clearly on the footage, you see a police officer pushing him over onto this concrete block. And so you have these things unfolding, and I suspect that they will try to get more aggressive. I mean, if you've only got to look at what's been happening in Australia, what we had with the protest in Melbourne last weekend was simple dystopia. unfortunately, there weren't enough people taking part in the protest to make the numbers, you know, impact upon events, as in Trafalgar Square. And I must say, the admiration that I have for those people in Melbourne who went to that protest in their hundreds, but not their tens of thousands, which is what you need to make a difference. But they made a difference in the sense that they were the originals willing to do it, knowing that there was going to be a massive police presence, which there was, and more brutality. And when you see in the footage of Melbourne, what some of the police look like, it's straight, what they were wearing, it's straight out of a dystopian movie. And what we're seeing in the full-blown fascism in Victoria under Daniel Andrews, the Premier, who's both fascistic and deep nation, is what is planned in the Northern Hemisphere as we move into the winter. And just to give you some confirmation of how calculated it is and how politicized it is, for instance, you had the Black Lives Matter march at the same time as the one in Trafalgar Square, and nobody there, none of their organisers were arrested and fined £10,000 for organising it, like Piers Corbyn was. But this is the story. Peter Hitchens is the one mainstream journalist, he writes a column every week for the Mail on Sunday, who has consistently challenged the deletion of freedom and the fact that this virus narrative makes no sense in relation to its alleged danger by ratio to the way society has been transformed as a result of it. And in his column this week, he makes a very telling observation, and indeed a quote. He's talking about a lawyer. He says, the keen-eyed lawyer, Matthew Scott, an experienced barrister, is among many neutral observers greatly disturbed by what is happening. You may not like Mr. Corbyn, but he is a fine and ancient, in a fine and ancient tradition of troublemakers who have enjoyed vision for standing up for what they think is right, so helping to keep us all free. They did not care if they were liked. And it's emphasizing that you're not going to do anything in this arena of challenging authority if you have any desire to be liked, because you're going to be demonized and lots of people are going to believe it. But it doesn't matter, because you're doing what you know to be right, and that's all that really matters. But Hitchens goes on, but Mr. Scott and what he says is deeply worrying. The regulation used to fine Mr. Corbyn, 5B of the Coronavirus Act, was, quote, hastily made law the day before the demonstration in Trafalgar Square was held. It was introduced under an emergency procedure and was neither debated nor given the most cursory scrutiny by any parliamentary process. So they skewed the law the day before, specifically to target Piers Corbyn. And that's what we're dealing with. It's fascism. And it mentions there no parliamentary scrutiny. We don't have a parliament. It's been suspended. Britain and these other countries around the world are being run, controlled by an occupational government, not a democratic one, government of occupation, which are making decisions arbitrarily based on what suits their political and, well, cult agenda, that's what it is, and not on what is fair, just, and reasonable. And this is why you see these different responses by authorities and law enforcement to different marches and protests, depending on what they're protesting against.
the thing that I thought about today as well is the hypocrisy. So, like you're saying about the marches, there's so much inversion. So, with Lives Matter protest, obviously, all the members of Parliament took the knee, did that obviously as a protest for the murder of George Floyd, who died saying he couldn't breathe while at the same time saying you've got to wear a mask so none of us can breathe. Like, that's an inversion. That doesn't make any sense in a sane world. And the other one I was thinking about today was the fact that obviously this whole thing is about protecting the elderly and protecting the vulnerable. So that's why they're blaming the young now, despite the fact they told all the young people to go out and eat. Do you know what I mean? Eat to help out and all this sort of stuff, half-price food, get people out in the restaurants that they can then put on. So they're blaming the young people because it's all about protecting the old and the vulnerable. But at the same time, they're putting do not resuscitate orders on the old and the vulnerable. And from what I was reading today in Scotland, if you have a comorbidity, so if you have an illness already, you do not resuscitate order from the age of 45. That's not elderly.
Now, this is all part of the depopulation, which is why I keep saying we draw a line now, or we're going to go into a level of dystopia that people will find hard to imagine. I can imagine it because I've been. It's bad now. Well, they should do nothing then, and they'll realise how bad it's going to be. Funnily enough, I've got this story, and I've made a little note on the side here, which is exactly what you just said. They want to divide the young from the old. They're doing it in many and various ways, not least through the human-caused climate hoax, or it's all you old people that are destroying the earth for us. And by the way, if it weren't for old people, we wouldn't have Brexit. Actually, we've not got Brexit. They're rolling that back all the time. But the point being, as you say, that while this whole thrust is, although all these younger people, like the vast majority of people, have no symptoms and don't get ill, it's still dangerous because they can give it to old people. Evidence for that? Zilch. And so this to protect old people, they would consider me old. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't want to be protected from something that I don't need protecting from. Thank you very much. But you're not given this choice. Oh no, you've got to protect. Who says? Well, we do. And so at the same time, you're using old people as the reason to lock down everybody else. You're killing them systematically, not just with do not resuscitate orders, but with reducing or removing, deleting treatment for other diseases, which when they die, says COVID-19. And this other story, relevant to what we're talking about, it's about Johnson, the Prime Minister. He says he cannot say that families will be able to celebrate Christmas together. Well, I can. It was always in the script that Christmas was easy this week, with the fear, hysteria, and the manipulation of the figures to give a false view of what is going on. He said that